So Kim zooming in from Michigan, and very quickly I'm feeling that myself and Kim have a lot in common.
Yes, and people from Michigan have to show you their hand. Do you know about that?
No.
Here is Michigan. Here's my hand. This is the thumb, and
Yeah.
then here's the pinky, and I live right at the base of the pinky, and this is Lake Michigan. So
Okay.
that's where I live. Okay, and then if you need the Upper Peninsula, this is the Mackinac Bridge and the Upper Peninsula. So everybody from Michigan says this is where I live. So I live right here. And I live 5 minutes from Lake Michigan. And if you were to go straight across Lake Michigan, you'd end up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's where I am.
So Kim, did you want to just introduce yourself? Tell a little bit about yourself. Okay.
Sure. I'm a retired educator and a lifelong educator. So when I retired and got into bees, the education piece just fell right into my lap. So um, my retirement career is not only bees, but I'm a pollinator educator and I have a little consulting business called Waggle Dance Honey Bees.
Nice.
Go to schools and libraries and museums and all kinds of places and talk about pollinators and honeybees. And I never knew I'd have a side gig. Well, Michigan State University now has a program that's gone national, and it's
Oh,
called Heroes to Hives. And if you haven't seen Heroes to
no.
Hives, they actually work with veterans with PTSD. It's a wonderful program.
Yeah.
They not only learn to work with bees, but some of them start their own business. I mean, some of them are entrepreneurial and actually become beekeepers and start their own business or work for a commercial pollinator or,
I
and
would
some of
love to have somebody on.
I know the person who founded the program. He is
Great.
in the peninsula of Michigan now, but I will make a note to hook you up with Adam.
Yeah, I would
And
love that.
he would love
Um,
to interview him for Heroes to Hives. I know Heroes to Hives ran out of spaces. They
yeah,
did
I
not
hear
have
you.
enough spaces. So
I see that all the time with social work, beekeeping, I think, and social work goes hand in hand. It works really closely together. It just makes a person be in the moment, grounds them. They're able to kind of concentrate on their senses and touch and feel. So it's very much medicine to some people.
that's actually how I got into beekeeping. Actually, I retired early from teaching because my 4-year-old granddaughter got leukemia.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Actually, she was 3 when she was first diagnosed. And about 45 minutes away, we have Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, which is a national pediatric hospital for that. And so I retired early from teaching to be the second parent because she was hospitalized a lot in the first 2 years.
That's hard.
If her temperature went over a certain degree, she had to go immediately to the emergency room. And even when she wasn't hospitalized, she couldn't go out in public because she had no immunity. So, for a couple of years, we spent every month praying she didn't die. And it was, you can imagine, as a social worker, traumatic for
Yep.
all of us,
Yep.
right? So, I want to skip to the happy part.
Yes, for
We have a
sure.
prop today. She is a healthy and beautiful
Beautiful.
middle school girl.
Oh, she's beautiful.
After about 2.5 years, the we turned the corner and she started getting better
Yeah.
every month. And after 3 years, all of a sudden, she's going to kindergarten. She's going to birthday parties. Omi, I can't come this weekend because I'm blah blah. And after having her sometimes more than her mother, right?
Yeah.
Um, I suddenly had a healthy grandchild and I had all this time on my hands. And I was kind of at my end and I didn't know I had PTSD from it. We you do have stress afterward. We'd already had the Make-A-Wish trip, all those things. And I had been wanting to do this bees on my bucket list and we lived in town, but I had quite a nice yard and I have always loved perennials and natives. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try beekeeping. So I called my brother-in-law in Seattle who's kept bees since he was in high school. And I said, Scott, I'm going to get bees. And he goes, no, you're not. It's like, you are not the boss of me, dude. Goes, he goes, there's just so much you have to know. And I know you're a teacher and an educator and a learner. So he gave me a list. You need to read this book I'm going to send you. You need to watch these YouTube videos. You need to join a bee club. You need to spend a year getting ready. And once you've spent that year, then you'll be ready to have your first bees. And I'm so grateful for that advice. It's the advice I give every newbie. It's the
You
advice
know
we give.
what? I say the same thing, and that's how what I did. I took the first year when I realized I wanted to do bees, that wall going up to it, I was
Mhm.
memorizing videos. And University of Guelph had some really good videos. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but
Very familiar. They're
but
wonderful.
yeah, they are. So I did the same thing. So we're very similar to that too. So tell me how many hives you have today.
Today, I went into winter with 20 solid colonies. And because of health issues, I went into winter with 5 dinks that I probably would have combined. But instead, I just tucked them in and wished them good luck.
Yeah.
And we're on a different temperature scale. Today here it's 16. It's been much colder. That means that's Fahrenheit. That means for you, like -9 or something,
Yeah.
I think.
I think you're colder than us then.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
and we have been, and it's unusual because normally Lake Michigan keeps us quite warm and we're a fruit belt, but there's a lot of ice on the lake from these Arctic chillers we've had that we don't. So, give you an example, we normally get 87 inches of snow between November and April. We've already had 87 inches of snow and we haven't even gotten out of January yet. So,
Oh, wow.
unusual winter for us. Yeah.
So where's your apiary to? Is it in your neighborhood or in your
I
garden?
have three.
Oh,
I have
cool.
three.
Yeah.
I have backyard bees. Even though I live in the city of North Muskegon, right with little lots, I'm at the end of a cul-de-sac, and my bees are above the Bear Creek watershed and Bear Lake. So if you go to the edge of my backyard, just beyond my bees, it's a 100-foot drop down to the creek and the watershed and the lake and the wetlands. So my bees that live in town have incredible
Yeah.
forage.
I would think.
Then I have bees right in downtown Muskegon, about 10 minutes from my house, and
Great.
they are also on a watershed. The west side of the where the building is, they face east, and they have a brick building behind them, which is our United Way of the Lakeshore, which is where I manage their habitat. I manage their Ryerson Creek watershed
Yeah.
as a volunteer. So they let me put bees there.
That's fabulous.
So I have bees there, and they're actually my biggest honey producers. And the reason I think they're my biggest honey producers is because they don't have any neighbors. No one is spraying Roundup.
Okay.
Nobody's spraying for mosquitoes. Nobody's fertilizing lawns and, doing all of those things that we know are harming
Yeah.
all of our
So
pollinators.
to paint a picture for me, when you're talking about the bees, downtown, so explain to me, is that like high buildings and cars? Is it that, or is
They're
it
they are
very,
yes, it is a normal city, but
yeah,
they are on the hill below that. Like if you just cross the street where my apiary is, you go right up a hill,
okay.
right up a big hill, and downtown Muskegon is up there. But yeah, they are just terrific, abundant, happy. And then my third set of bees is about 15 minutes from my house. It's at the Muskegon Conservation District. So 88 years ago, Michigan put into law that we needed to have, each county needed to have a conservation
Oh, that's
district.
good.
And they do all kinds of things. They do invasive species, watershed
Good.
management, soil. I mean, everything you can imagine that would preserve these things. I'm on their board of directors, and they sponsor the Muskegon Bee Club. Like, so right at they're sort of out in the woods a little bit. We have a club apiary of my bees right there on their property, and our club meetings are there. And
Oh,
so
that's cool.
May through October, we suit up and we have club meetings outside unless
That's
it's rain.
great. How lucky you are.
I am. I'm
Yeah.
very blessed. And I will have to tell you though, it was accidental. Said I'm going to have a couple of colonies and I'm going to get nukes and I'm going to follow all the things. But my mentor said, you ought to get a couple of packages. And I said, but I don't want to. I've already heard that I don't have resources. I don't have drawn comb. I don't want packages. Goes, but you'll learn stuff. But you'll learn stuff,
Yeah.
Kim. So you'll find out why other people shouldn't get packages either if they're newbies. So I started out with two nukes and two packages, and then they had some packages nobody picked up, and so I went and adopted one, so I ended up having five. But before I barely even got them installed, a friend said, "Could you come to Martin Luther Elementary School and just talk to kids about bees?" And I'm like, "Sure." Well, she posted on Facebook, and within 6 months, Waggle Dance Honey Bees was born
That is a
because,
great name. I like that name.
thank you. Well, so what I decided to do once I realized that this wasn't just a hobby is I decided to make sure I had multiple income streams from my hobby.
Yeah.
So one of my income streams is speaker fees. If I
Okay.
go to a library, a museum, or a school, they pay me an honorarium. So that's one income stream that is fairly consistent. Then my second income stream is honey,
Yep.
because obviously I've got a lot of colonies. But the reason I have so many colonies is we have a real passion through Michigan State University and our state organization to have local bees. It
Well,
is so typical where we are here in Michigan that people want their bees in April, as soon as it's warm enough to have them here.
yep.
And so they order packages and nukes from Georgia.
Okay.
They order queens from California. And we want local bees. So the reason I have so many colonies is because another one of my income streams is I sell all of my overwintered colonies as nukes in the spring.
Okay.
So every spring, I will sell between 15 and 20 5-frame nukes with an
Great.
overwinter queen. And so
Wonderful.
that's another income stream. And then my third income stream, that's a rather new one, is I rendered 5 years of beeswax this winter.
Oh, oh my goodness. I saw your post actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who knew how excited people would be about it? I had no idea. I already am developing a new presentation for 2026 called Mind Your Own Beeswax.
Where did you get all the wax from? Did you kind of just melt down frames or that what you had
No,
left
no,
over?
no.
Just picked up over the
Probably,
years?
probably everything I did picked up over the years.
Yeah,
Um, I do like if I do a cutout or clean up something, I
sure.
save that. But primarily it's wax cappings. And then here's
Yes.
a funny thing. I converted several years ago my three-season porch into a honey room. So between August and September, that three-season porch, all the furniture comes out, the spinner and all the stuff for extracting honey, but I open it up to members of my club who don't have that
That's
great
sweet. Okay,
space.
that's
And
great.
so people will come and they'll bring a super or two of honey and do all the work. And then they'll have all these wet cappings and they'll go like,
Oh, there we
now what do
go.
I do with that? And I said, well, you have to put it on a cookie sheet and then put it out on the picnic table and let all the bumblebees in the neighborhood clean it up. Then, and they're like, already stop, time out. I'm not doing that. And so they're like, "Well, would you like them?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I just say thank you. So I had pails of wax cappings from many
Great.
other backyard beekeepers who were just happy to have honey and didn't want to mess around with wax.
I
So
get a lot of people calling me or messaging me for wax, and obviously, that's probably the most important thing to the bees. And I am not giving away wax, but like you, I think you know what? If you pick up over the year, you probably will get a lot. When I think about doing hive checks and I'm scraping and yeah, put it in a bucket and save it. That's what I need
yes,
to do.
well, I'm lucky I don't buy buckets. So my fence neighbor from my in-town bees is the food service manager for the local middle school. And she gets 3.5 pound food grade buckets filled with pineapple and all kinds of things that she puts on her salad bar. So when she gets 10 buckets, she just leaves them at my back gate.
Oh,
So
that's great.
I always have places to put things, you know.
Mhm.
So I keep one of those buckets in each of my yards for the extra stuff I scrape off. Or, sometimes you forget to put a frame in, oops, and you go back and
What are you running? Are you running double deep, say deep and medium? What is
I'm
your
an
setup?
8-frame person.
Yeah, me too.
So right now I'm an 8-frame person. And because of how I started with my mentors, he said, there are a lot of people who are going to all mediums, Kim, and you could consider that. But I've been a beekeeper for 40 years, and my personal feeling is queens love deep
Deeps. I agree.
boxes.
I agree.
And so I run two deeps. um, all the time. You know,
Yep.
I have two deeps, and some went into winter with a medium on them. Some of the ones that got started later because I do post solstice queens too. So they might have some food, but we have such a heavy goldenrod flow. Like we never have a dearth where I live.
Okay.
Never. Like once red maple starts in March, we have nectar and pollen straight through September. There is
That's
never an
great.
interruption where I live.
Yeah, that's
I know
great.
that's unusual.
Yeah, it is very much.
So
So obviously, do you use pollen patties?
I do not
Yeah.
because we don't have very many small hive beetles here, but they are a feast for small hive
Yeah, I
beetles.
know. Just thinking about the amount of pollen you have coming in March. They're starting to come in. Obviously, that's their pollen source right there. That's
And they're
better,
red,
in my
those
opinion.
red maples. And I
Yeah.
can tell they're bringing in red maple pollen because in their pollen pants, it's beige.
Yeah.
The maple trees that we have here, it's beige and they have plenty. So I normally leave everybody with a minimum of 80 pounds of honey.
Or 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do 80 easy. And then what happened to me, I was having success overwintering, and then we had a really weird um, warm spring. It was warm in March, and then in April it got down to like 12 Fahrenheit. And I lost some colonies that had successfully overwintered because there was honey in there, but they were on the outside
Yeah.
frames and they couldn't break the cluster. So now, as an insurance policy, I put a 2-inch feeding shim above every colony.
Good. Yeah.
And in the past, I've left them with dry sugar.
What do you put
Out
into
in
them?
camp, nothing. I just pour a 5-pound bag of
Okay.
dry sugar onto
Okay.
wax paper.
Yep.
And then the ones that don't use it, I use that for my sugar syrup. So maybe if I had 20 colonies, maybe four of them actually get into their sugar. I never want them to not be able to go left or right. I always want, no matter where the cluster is, I want them to have something directly above them. So that's a change I made a couple of years ago. I'm 20 out of 20 this winter of
Oh,
my
good for you. Yeah.
colonies. We had a 52-degree day. We had like a very warm day about 2.5 weeks ago. So I checked everybody
Yep.
and um, out of the strong colonies that I was planning on, I was 100%. And then out of the five dinks that I didn't expect to make it, one of them actually did and surprised me. So I put a Hive Alive patty on them.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to the expo.
I did not go this
Okay.
year, but that's like the Disneyland for
Oh,
beekeepers.
the social aspect for me, obviously, being in Newfoundland, there's not a lot of people I can talk about bees. That's why I started Bee Haven, just to kind of give me a place and give me people to talk to. Because I had my family drove. How many people you meet? Like
Sure.
all over the world, I know people, and it's just through this, and it's great. And what I find interesting is just learning how you beekeep in your area. Yeah, we all beekeep, but obviously you have to kind of monitor to your temperature and where you're from.
Beekeeping Today podcast, he does shots for them, but
Okay, I saw that. I didn't listen to it though.
his
Yeah.
wife is from Ecuador.
Oh,
Um, so during COVID, when he was down there, he did a podcast from down there, and I got all fired up. So some of these people, because of social media, I feel like I know them a little
yes,
bit, and they're all because all of us beekeepers, we could walk up to anybody and talk for 2 hours and we don't even know them, right?
100%. Yep. And that's the thing with the expo. I was there and I loved it. People were coming up and oh, I saw this post and this post, and it's like after the initial hello, it's like you've known them forever.
Yeah, and it's so funny if you've listened to Beekeeping Today podcast before, and right now it's Becky Masterman.
Okay.
You know, they have a woman co-host. Well, a couple of years ago, they did a survey. We're going to survey beekeepers around the United States and find out how their year was. And they picked all old white men. And I almost drove off the road. And so I wrote him a very polite letter and said, I'm a long time listener and this really matters to me. But most of the people I know that are beekeepers in my club are women. I mean, I still know old white men
Yeah.
who've been keeping bees for 40 years, but that was pretty insensitive.
Yeah.
And so I just left it. Within 24 hours, I got a 5-page response. I am so sorry. I'd never thought of that. When Kim died, and his co-host, um, they got a woman. And so like I have a personal connection with him now because I just
Sure.
shared a thought and he came right back from his heart and he's in
Yeah.
Washington State. He's by Olympia.
Okay.
So his beekeeping is very different than mine. Becky Masterman lives in Minnesota. She's more like me.
Okay.
So you're right. It's location, location,
Yeah, for
location.
sure. So your bees are obviously tight in the cluster, keep them
Yep,
warm. Your,
yep.
I guess usually they come out around end of April. Is that the time they usually surface?
March.
March? Oh, good. You're
March
lucky.
on it because we'll get some because I have my bees in easterly facing sunny locations.
Yeah.
In March, we'll get some days usually that are warm enough. We'll at least get pooping, we'll at least get
Yes.
cleansing flights, and then you see that they're still alive, right? And you just go, yay.
Up in my shed actually, probably about 2 weekends ago. It was a kind of it's a warmer day, warmer. It was probably about 5, but yet and thankfully all of them are still buzzing.
Once a month, I just tip the top. I
Yeah.
have I have the big telescoping lid, and I have a piece of insulation inside that,
Okay.
and then I have a moisture board, and then I have the feeding shim. So I just lift under that moisture
Yep.
board, look in the feeding shim, see if there are any bees in there. If not, drop the cover. If there are, I'll come back the next day with some sugar or with a Hive Alive patty
Yeah.
and feed
So
them
do you
up. But
have insulation around your hive? Do you insulate
this year
around?
I do.
Good. Okay.
This year I do, and I've never done it before. But these people that buy bee cozies, like
I don't
they're
like them.
a bee cozy is $35. I am not going to put a blanket or a puffy coat on each of my beehives for $35 a
No. If
piece.
I was given some, I would, but I wouldn't be doing that either.
There
Um,
you go.
so what kind of pests do you have in your area? What do you have to worry about with your bees?
Um, in August, I have to worry about dragonflies.
Yeah. Okay.
Dragonflies because I am above, I said, the Bear Creek watershed in Bear Lake. And by August, the dragonfly population is enormous.
Yes.
Fortunately, that's also when our honeybees are at their largest population, right? And so, but you'll see one fly by and then it'll land and you'll actually hear crunch crunch.
I know. I don't like that
And
either.
so I find dragonflies to be a real frustration in
Yeah.
August at my home yard. And the other pests that I have are yellow jackets, and not because they affect my bees too much. But here's the funny thing. I do several presentations for which I receive, an honorarium. And one of them is Native Bees of Michigan. And that actually was my most popular presentation last year, 450 native species of bees in Michigan.
Wow.
14 different species of bumblebees alone. And even people who've lived there their whole lives don't know it because, most of our small bees are solitary, right? They're cavity nesters or, you don't see them. So in the beginning of the presentation, I explain how honeybees got here and how they're not native. And then
Yeah.
I go on to do a whole thing about native bees. But at the end, I do a thing called the wannabes. And I talk about the yellow jacket, and I talk about the fact that the reason yellow jackets are such a problem for us in August is because the wasp queen has stopped laying.
Yeah.
At the beginning of August, she's going to lay those new queens that have to go out and get mated.
Yeah.
And so she has created a whole workforce of yellow jackets who are now unemployed.
Yeah.
And they have
True.
nothing else to do but come bother humans. So I'm on the swarm call list for my club. I'm on the swarm call list for municipalities and farm
Good for
and
you.
fire departments, but we have to get really picky and say, send me a picture
Yeah. I
with
do the same.
you have to really screen it.
It
And
does. Yeah.
they're like, what can I do about yellow jackets? And I said, nothing. They will die with the first hard frost.
Yeah.
What I do in my bee yards is I have a wasp trap that you get at a big box
Yeah.
store
Yeah.
that
I
has
have
the
some too.
bait in the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I put that in my bee yard for us around Mother's Day, around May 15th. And if you can trap a wasp queen
Yeah.
middle of May, that prevents the whole colony.
Yeah. Do you like cutouts?
No, I don't do cutouts
Okay.
because of construction.
Yeah.
So we actually have a construction person who's about 45 minutes from where I live, who's the president of the Grand Rapids, Michigan Bee Club.
Oh,
And he's quite a beekeeper, but he has not only the skill and the tools, he has the insurance.
yes.
And I've always been told you don't want to go in and destroy someone's
No.
house and then be held responsible for fixing it.
Yeah. Me, I just make sure I have a carpenter with me or the carpenter's there before me. I obviously don't do that stuff. I'm just there when the nest is open to kind of just remove it. But I love it. Oh my goodness. I had a big old house. I had a church. I had a condo, like pretty nice stuff. It's just really exciting part of it, you know. Here in Newfoundland, you know, people find this hard to believe that we don't have any feral honeybees. Like our bees.
We
uh,
rarely have a feral colony. If we have a
yeah.
feral colony, it was like you say, in a structure, like in a house
Yes.
or in a barn or something where they really had protection.
Yes, exactly.
So when I do a swarm capture, I tell people it's really a rescue because
Yeah,
in
definitely.
Michigan, 90% of the swarms are not going to be successful. They're going to perish if you don't catch them
Yes,
and give them.
exactly. As an educator, I'm really big on hive checks. And I think swarming, if you do your hive checks the way you're supposed to and the duration between each the same, I think you're going to decrease the chances that those bees are going to swarm. Knock on wood, I've never had my bees swarm on me, but I do it once a week. Some people are like, ah, that's too much. But you know what? I'm not doing a deep dive into the hive. I'm just
No,
kind of looking at I kind of lift it up, look underneath. If I see swarm cells up, you know what? I've never gotten to that point to getting swarm cells because I'm on top of it. And I get it, life gets in the way and busy. But I think if you have bees, you have to make your time.
I had a swarm my first year. This is
Is
so
that
funny.
right?
Before I had them out in my way backyard where they are now, I had
Yeah.
them next to my house in a little alley fenced in spot where I could see them out my bedroom window.
Yeah.
It started as a 5 frame nuke, but
Okay.
my original mentor was such an incredible beekeeper that I got my nuke May 20th, and on 4th of July,
Wow.
they swarmed. I never even thought a nuke would swarm your first year.
Yeah. Must have been really
So
grown fast.
yes, and so they went over my 6 foot fence and landed on a tree in the alley next to me. And I didn't have enough equipment. This is my first year.
Yeah.
So I took a Rubbermaid tub and I shook them into the Rubbermaid tub and kind of and it seemed like I had the queen. And my husband goes, well, what are you going to do now? I said, well, I'm just going to hope I got the queen and I'm going to drink a cup of iced tea and hope they all go in the tub. And in the meantime, I'm texting somebody for equipment, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you have for me? So I have had one swarm. This will be my 8th year as a beekeeper and my
Yeah.
7th year having bees. And I have literally had one swarm. However, I'm lazy enough that in these 3 yards, I'll have empty equipment on the end of the hive stand.
Yeah.
Last year, I caught
Right.
a
Yeah,
swarm
exactly.
in every yard. And you know what? I know they're not my bees because I do OTS, because I do the on the spot
Yeah.
splitting. I will split my bees between May 10th and May 20th.
Hmm.
Take the overwintered queen out, put her in her 5 frame nuke, and I
Yes.
will sell her to a new beekeeper. So they've got to requeen themselves. But because I do on the spot split making and I notch those cells, the bottom of those cells by a third, I will end up with 3 or 4 extra queen cells that they don't need. I will leave them 2 or 3, but I will have extra queen cells. And so I split those off into nukes too.
Yes.
So my bees could not possibly be swarming. I keep my bees thin enough
Exactly. Yeah.
during swarm time that they're not going to swarm.
Yeah.
When you had the gentleman on the other day, he talked about a colony has a finite amount of energy.
Hmm.
And you have to determine and plan ahead what you're going for. If you're going for honey,
Yeah.
then it's this direction. If you
Exactly.
are going for increase, then you have a different strategy.
Yeah.
Or if you find yourself in need of drawn comb, that's a different energy that they need because people don't realize for 1 pound of wax,
Yes.
I'm going to show you the cute one I just made.
Oh, cute.
Candle, it's just a gingerbread cookie. But for 1 pound of wax, it requires 8 pounds of honey.
That's
And
great.
a lot of people wonder why beeswax is expensive.
Yeah,
You choose to harvest and sell your wax. This is a precious resource.
it is. Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
is a precious resource, and you are sacrificing honey.
Mhm.
You know, you are
That's something I hold dear to my heart, and I'm not going to be given to anybody because the bees need it. I
right.
have frames in my garage now, and obviously they're pulled, and I obviously am not giving them anybody to use as wax. They're going to be used when I get my all my hives up and running again in the spring.
If you think about a person who sells nukes on that same, if you think about me, if I'm going to sell 15 or 20 5 frame nukes in the spring,
Mhm.
that's 5 times however many nukes I sell of comb I have to replace.
Yes, you're right.
So that was another reason why. So fortunately, when it all works together, so when you are doing these splits in May, in middle to late May, that is the peak of our flow, and everybody
Yeah.
just has wax squirting out of every joint in their body. And
So
so,
different, right? I'm so
yeah,
jealous because we would not be splitting in May. If you're getting a nuke here, you don't
yeah.
get your nuke till probably the end of June.
Oh, wow. Now, see, you know when the summer solstice is, right? June
Yep.
21st. So what I do, and this is part of my IPM, so I do the artificial swarm in the middle of May. And so that's my original swarm and mite control, right? Because during that 30-day broodless
Yes,
period, mites
exactly.
aren't happening. So that's good. And then just around the solstice, I take those new queens and I put them in retirement condos.
Hmm.
I don't pinch them. I put them in
We had
retirement
that
condos.
conversation and
Yes, I was part of that. Yes,
there's
I was
lots
part
of
of that.
division in some people. And some
So
people I think are a little bit challenging that, okay, you know what, if you're not going to pinch your queen, what are you going to do with her? Like, but
okay,
there's things that you can do with her, like you
right.
just
So
mentioned.
put them in a retirement
Yeah,
condo. And so, again, that gives my honey producing colony a brood break, in terms of they don't have any brood to raise, so they can bring in more nectar when the basswood starts to come in. That's a big flow for
yeah.
us. So my bees are kind of broodless during my biggest nectar flow of the summer. And then I have all these 5 frame nukes of retired, but still pretty good queens, right? They're still the queen of the season. And then I have an observation hive, a 5 frame observation hive. So I will use Her Majesty and her staff to go to a school or a
I think
farmer's
that's
market.
great. Yeah.
And then the other thing I do is I have them around in case of emergencies because
Yes.
other people have emergencies. You may accidentally squish a queen. I mean, if
It
you say
happens.
you haven't, you're a liar.
It happens.
Yep. And but the other thing we have here is we are getting bears encroaching
Oh,
into our area. Um, the bears used the black bears and whatever they used to come like maybe 60 miles north of us. That was as far down as they've come. But we have climate change, right? And so bears are encroaching closer and closer to
yeah.
people I know. And so we've had a number of people who had a tragedy because when a bear gets there, they just rip
They
everything wide
do.
open and they scatter it across a field. There's no
Heartbreaking.
it's
Yeah.
not Winnie the Pooh, let's just say,
Oh,
little paw. And so, at least 2 or 3 times a summer, somebody has an emergency like that, and it's way past bee season.
yeah.
All the people who were the nuke and the package and, all the suppliers, they're all done now. Some of them may be grafting queens, but nobody's producing bees.
Yeah.
And so I can say, well, you know, for $150, I will offer you this queen of the season and this 5 frame nuke. And if you work really hard, you can probably feed it up and get it through winter.
So how much do you sell a nuke for?
My nukes will sell $200 US this year.
Okay.
There's an average price of $175 in my region, but those are not what I sell.
No.
I
Oh, you know
sell
your bees.
I sell an overwintered queen that I bred and raised, my one of my queens
Yeah.
with her original staff, I mean, with her brood, with her workers. Some people will create a 5 frame nuke, and then they will order 100 queens from California, and they will put all these 100 nukes out with these mated queens, and they will have them sit in this yard for a couple of weeks and get the queen accepted. That's not the same thing
No.
that I offer, you
I
know?
always struggle with, and I've heard people do it, and I haven't really said much because you can't say too much. You're going to get people a little bit heated. But like, for example, you're in Michigan. People are ordering queens from California. Temperature's different in California. So like you bring your queens to Michigan, like I don't know how that works. I mean, what are your
Well,
thoughts?
well, I've listened to a lot of scientific stuff. And so I've listened to a couple of PhD level entomology people who said 98% of our bees in North America are genetically the same. I mean, like if you just put it under a microscope,
Yeah,
but everything is not in the DNA. And the whole point of adaptation. So I feel like if I'm selling somebody, I do alphabet with my queens. So last summer we got to Z. So I sold Zelda to a friend. She was going to start beekeeping. She got equipment for a wedding gift. She waited the year. She did the whole thing. And so she's getting Zelda. Well, Zelda's the daughter of Zippy. Okay. And so I track my queens through, and so when if she her colony is doing fine, and if Zelda comes to spring, we're going to put Zelda in a new hive setup and let Zelda create, her daughters create a new queen. There's something special about queens that successfully overwinter in the climate that you're
I
in.
agree. Hmm.
And so I think locally adapted bees, and honestly, I sell out every year. If I had 50, I could sell 50 because now after 5 years of doing this, I and another good friend of mine who actually was mentored by Mel Disselcone himself.
Okay.
She actually works side by side with Mel Disselcone, the person who developed the OTS
Yeah.
method of
So
splitting.
he's in Michigan.
He's in Michigan.
So what about treatments? What do you do there for treatments? What's your grow
Oh,
to?
so I am one of those people that starts preaching the integrated pest management at the first meeting. I've already handed out the booklet. And it's a matter of timing.
Yeah,
And there's something different to do at each stage. Some people choose to do it, some people don't. But but in fair disclosure, I'm going to tell you my whole system. And
sure.
I tell people that I mentor, do what I do until you know something better. Like I don't know everything, but if I overwinter 15 out of 20 consistently every winter, I got something going. So when people tell me whether they treat or don't treat or how they treat, I want to know their overwintering success. I start in April. In April, I use a natural miticide made from the hops of beer. It's called
Mm,
Hop Guard 3. It's very sticky and messy. It's sort of like cardboard strips with molasses, but
okay.
it's very gentle on the bees. And so, wondering if I have any mites that got through the winter. I'm not going to do a mite check. I'm not going to open the hive. I'm just going to not do an inspection, but I open the top box where the bees are,
Yeah.
usually by then, by April. And I put these 4 sticky cardboard strips of Hop Guard 3 on. It's a very mild and natural miticide.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't like to do it because it's sticky. You have to put on a pair of latex gloves and then you have to throw them away, when you're. So I use that in April. In May, what I count as my IPM are the OTS splits,
Okay.
where I
You
pull
get
the
your brood
queens
break.
out and make brood breaks. And
Yeah.
so when I sell my nukes, everybody knows that they are getting a hive, a mini hive that was treated with Hop Guard 3 the month before.
Yeah.
So they know I've done a treatment. Then in June, I will do my first mite wash.
Okay.
Based on the results of the mite wash, I will decide what to do next. And then I probably am going to go to Formic Pro.
Okay. I like, yeah.
Yeah. We have a couple of new things. Oxalic acid used to have
Yes.
to be vaporization,
Yeah.
and now we have Viroxan, which are strips.
Yes.
Uh, I've used them for 2 years now, and I was very lucky because Michigan Michigan's agriculture department approved them. Many other states didn't approve them initially, so not everybody got to use them out of the gate. But I had great success with them. I was
Okay.
very pleased with the result. But some people think that oxalic acid is the silver bullet. I'll just OA my bees and then I won't
Yeah,
have mites. But the problem is OA only works on phoretic mites. It does not address anything about mites under the cap where they're
absolutely. Yeah.
OA can be great in the spring. OA can be great for a swarm because they have no comb, and if they have
Yes.
any mites, they're on them. And they can be great at the end of the season when the queen is slowed down and there aren't
Yes.
so many bees and there's not a lot of brood. But there is a very new mite treatment that you probably heard about that makes the mites neutered, right?
Yeah. Nora, one of the girls that I had on here, she actually purchased it at the expo. So I had a great chat with her about it. Pretty interesting. I think it just stops the ability for them to reproduce.
Right. So the important thing that we're trying to educate people on right now is that Naroa is not a knockdown treatment. If you have a mite bomb, like, when we do a wash, we want 3 mites or less.
Yes.
0 to 3. 0 to 3 is a threshold where bees can still thrive.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you have a mite bomb, if you have a mite count of 15, then Naroa is not that. Naroa is going to help you. So in the spring, I would say in June, when I do my alcohol washes and I find out that my mite counts are still very low, which I expect, I would probably do Naroa
Yeah.
for any colony that passed the mite wash. I wouldn't do Formic Pro on unless they needed it. It's a problem. You can't have honey supers on when you're putting that in there because you don't want them storing that in the broods. So I got so excited when I learned that the way Naroa works is the bees ingest the sugar water with the enzyme and the thing. They store it in the bee bread, and then when they feed the larvae, and then the larvae get fed on by the mites, you've basically given them a birth control pill, for
That's a
lack of a
nice way to put it.
yeah. You've basically get so they can't reproduce. And the thing is, if they reproduce under a founder mite under drone comb,
Yeah.
can do 3 cycles
Mhm. Yeah.
in one 24-day cycle. They can reproduce 3 times. So this idea that a mite under the cap cannot reproduce, that's how you keep your varroa at the level that it's at.
Mhm. What about the other pest that's up and coming that we're hearing a lot about?
The trophy. Oh,
Yeah, but have you guys learned that as a club, or is that something you're going to be looking into?
we last met in November and we had just had the cargo ship incident.
Oh,
Everybody was in a panic mode. And I said, okay. So we had one discussion of it, but I said, Tropy is not here, but we need to get ahead of it and know what's going on. So we'll actually have a spring meeting.
yeah,
That will be one of our topics so that people understand that it's not the same as Varroa. And there's some concern for people in warmer climates because
yes.
that's where Tropy is. And that those of us that get the cold stop climate, we might be less impacted by it and have more ability to deal with it because we have that hard winter and that hard stop.
However, I think lately they've been kind of looking at, I mean, trophy has been found in Russia and places like that that definitely do get cold. So, because I said that too, I sat on a plane with Jeff Batiste, and this was a year ago. I was on the way to Reno, and he looked at me and he said, "You know what? You don't have to worry about trophy. That's not coming your way." And I told that to Maggie, right? She's like, "Oh, I think Jeff is saying different things now because they're doing a lot more research, and absolutely, that trophy can handle a lot more cold than what we thought it could."
Right. But it's like trying to hit a moving target. In Georgia right now, they're dealing with the yellow-legged wasp.
Yeah.
And
So,
so they got a real problem
oh
down
yeah.
there. So if it's not one thing,
I
it's another
know, I
thing.
know. Great. The yellow-legged hornet. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know if you know Richard Knoll. He had a video on YouTube, and the what I mean, it's like this big. Like if I
Yeah,
saw that flying around, I'd be in my house pretty darn quick with my
and
bees.
that's
Take
and
me inside.
it's about being vigilant. And I guess the way I feel, I will say this about people in my club. we focus on beginners. We want people to be successful. We want them to
Yeah.
be beekeepers, not beehavers, and we're about education and new people. But unfortunately, we have a couple of people that if they get through the winter once or twice and their bees don't die, they stop coming to the club. And
Yeah.
I think they think they've got it. And I think you and I both know we don't got it,
It's
that
constant learning. It's
sure.
continuous learning.
And you need to give back. That's another aspect of our club is, a lot of people gave a lot of time. Always think of that as I think many beekeepers came before you to bring you the information you have, and your obligation is to mentor someone else, come to a meeting, offer some help, be a bee buddy with someone. I mean, you don't have to be the president of a bee club, but I really feel like if you've been mentored, you have an obligation to find somebody else that you can share that with. So I'll show
Correct.
you another funny picture. I want to show you my favorite beekeeper. This is my grandson, Simon. I have three grandkids, but only one is interested in beekeeping.
Oh,
Simon has, when he was 4, this is when he was 4, I finally put him in a bee suit. Do you see what he's holding? A queen
yeah.
catcher?
Yep.
Simon wants to do this. And so he's going to be 9. He now has his own hives. In fact, he had the Z hive. The original queen was Zippy,
Wicked.
and then her daughter was Zelda, the one that we sold. But Simon can find a queen when no one else can. This year, he got his own honey label. My honey I sell under Waggle Dance Honey Bees,
Yep.
and I only have 2 varieties. I have summer honey, which I get at the end of August, which is basswood and
Yeah.
spotted knapweed and whatever's around. But then sometimes after Labor Day, I can put the wet supers back on. And if we have a huge goldenrod flow like we usually do, and the bees already have 80 or 100 pounds, I
Yeah.
harvest goldenrod honey. So he got his own label this year. He has a label called Simon Select.
Oh, that's
And
sweet.
we put his honey in little 4-ounce jars, and
Oh,
we were at a little craft fair at our church, and he had his little table set up. That little stinker sold out. He outsold me at the craft fair because everybody had to have a jar of Simon Select.
oh. What is the name of your bee club?
Muskegon area beekeepers.
And you're fabulous, lady. I could talk to you for hours.
I am just so happy because I only have X amount of bandwidth like you.
Yeah.
And the info sheets that you put out, I'm a member of 14 different bee groups in Michigan. And so I when you put out something about queens or um, I not only share it with my club, I share it 12 or 13 more
Oh,
times.
good. I'm glad.
This has been really energizing for me. I have adored this time with you,
Oh,
and
for sure. Me too,
you're
huh?
now on my bucket list of trips. I would love to come your way. I'm so just thank you for everything you do.
You to have a good evening. Say hello to all your group for me when you hop on your meeting.
I will, and I
Yes.
just feel like you're a kindred spirit. All
We'll be
right.
chatting to you very soon.
Yeah, we'll see you
Okay.
out there.
Yeah. Take care, my friend. Bye
Bye.
bye.